let's talk about the difference between divisions on the computer's page and the asset fields that are found within the computer records themselves here. A lot of times they will overlap in their function, or at least in the data they contain, but they're two separate groupings, and that's because there are cases when they will not always match. So first, let's talk about divisions. What are they? What are they for? How are they populated? So basically, divisions you can think of as like an Active Directory organizational unit. It's a folder that the digital records go into. So each computer has a digital record that corresponds to a real physical piece of hardware out in your environment. The digital records are organized into divisions where it's easy for targeting for reports and various other tasks within the tool. But then the records themselves contain fields that show where they are physically located. That's why a lot of times it's going to match. If your organization uses divisions to mirror the physical location, then you've got folders that match the physical locations that your computers are found in. So that's the basics. So how do we set up divisions versus how do we populate those asset fields? So first of all, there's a number of ways to automate creating divisions. One is through an Active Directory integration. We can also do that with an Intune integration, or you can do it manually by creating the folders and then dragging and dropping computers in, or you create the folders manually and set up internal rules. We're not going to step through how each of those is done, but I just want to give you an idea. If we were to create a division at the top here, I click plus, and then I can type a division name. Let's call this new division. And so how do we get this nested structure? One thing to know is that if you put a period as a division separator, then when you save it, the period is going to serve as sort of that nested folder. So new division will be the top level folder, and then something will be the bottom level folder. But I'm not going to do that right now, because what I really want to do is put my new division into a pre-existing folder. So the steps I just walked through, where you add the period within the name, will create a new nested folder. But if the folder you're nesting within already exists, it's best just to create the flat name and then drag and drop it into the division below. So that's pretty much the approach that you're going to want to take if you are adding to a pre-existing nested structure. If you're creating one from scratch, you add the period in the name. Now again, I can drag and drop computers into the new division. I could come down here to where the filters are, create a new filter that might look at the computer name prefix or an IP address range, and then drag it into this area here where discovered is. And then I could go in and add the division name to make this filter into what we call a rule. That will also move computers into divisions. And then I previously mentioned the Active Directory and Intune integrations that will also kind of automate the population of those divisions. So that's the idea behind organizing the digital records. And this will apply to your physical computers, your virtual machines, your servers, Chromebooks, and even imported mobile devices like iPhones or Android tablets. That sort of thing can all be set up here in the computer's page and then dropped into those divisions. Separately are our asset fields. And again, the idea here is, where is the physical device located, even if it means mirroring or matching that division structure. And the way this is done is through imports from Intune or Jamf, for example. We can also manually populate these fields here individually or back on the main computer's page using Quick Edit. And I won't go into the details here because there is another video for this, but you can also set up dependent fields where the selection you make in the region field determines what options are available in the location field, in the building field, and the room field, so that you can kind of restrict the entries based on prior entries in the other fields. Now, in reporting, you can create a filter that looks at departments or looks at buildings and then use that as a target in a computer-based report to only include computers that, say, are in the building you're looking for. But that's done in the report builder, and it's a little bit more cumbersome, or a couple of additional steps involved, as opposed to running a division-based report right from the report builder. So if we go to the report builder, you'll see that a lot of the reports actually have div in the name. And that allows you to either automatically group objects, whether it's products or computers or users, by division, because it's a primary object in the report. Whereas if you're using an asset field filter, you would use a computer report, and then on the target tab, you would target the filter that you wanted to use as your computer group. Now, before we wrap up, let's actually step through the process of using a division as a scope in a report, and then talk about that creating a filter and using a filter as a target process, just so you can see the difference between the two approaches. If I want to run a report that just looks at a division, it's actually quite simple. I can simply come up to the scope bar, select the division that I want to run the report on, and pretty much any report, although not 100% of them, will accept this scope, and when you run the report, only include results that are for computers that are in that division. But what we're going to do here is actually select a different report, because I want to show you an example of a division-based report. So if we look for something like usage div by prod, with this scope applied, it's going to run and only show me results for software product usage within this division. Very, very simple. All that has to happen is for that division to exist, and I can run a report with that used as a scope. Now, for things that are part of those asset fields, like department, it's a totally different process. The first step is going to be to come to the computers page, open up the filters, and I can actually create a filter, engineering department. So I'm going to name that. I'm going to add the department field, and let's select engineering from the list. So pretty straightforward. I've created that, and when I click save, now I've got a filter where if I get rid of this division and I get rid of this, I can actually select that filter, and it will show me computers that have the word engineering on the asset pane in the department field. So that's what that filter is primarily for, is the ability to kind of filter this page to look for objects on this page. However, on the report builder, I can go back, and in this case, I'm not going to choose a division report, because I'm not targeting a division. I'm actually targeting computers that are in the engineering department. So what I'll do is I'll grab comp by product instead of div by product, and on the target pane, I'm going to choose engineering, and I see that filter exists, and now I can target to it and run it. I'm going to get roughly the same data, but now it's broken down by computer instead of division. And one other thing I could do if I wanted, if I come up to the top here and choose create similar, go down to that target field, this aggregation would allow me to also aggregate by department. And in which case, it's essentially going to aggregate the usage of those computers by department. Since all of these computers are in the engineering department, it just aggregates the usage for all of those specific computers. So a little bit more work, but it allows for some additional capabilities and customization and targeting, with both options being made available. I hope this makes sense. Please let us know if you have any questions or comments. Thank you.